Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. I want to shout out to Meldon Law. I had a great talk this morning with Josh Howard from Meldon Law, who is in charge of what they're doing on our hole, the 6th hole in this case. It's going to be a lot of fun on that hole for the Bob Dooley Invitational. And they're donating 2 tickets to a Florida football and 2 tickets to a Florida basketball game in their gift baskets, so you can come bid on. And I will say this, and it's the last time I'm going to say it. Well, I may say it one more time. If you want to come out and bid on things, we're not restricted. We're trying to raise the most money we possibly can for Stop Children's Cancer. If you never played golf before and you want to wander out there and put $1,000 on this 2-night stay at Hammock Dunes with golf for 2, you want to do that? We'll take the money. It goes right to Stop. I don't see any of it. I don't even look at it. It's not even in my peripheral, which means I wasn't looking at it. So we got a great show for you today. Chris Lowe from ESPN is going to join us. Coach Spurrier again. Coach Spurrier's in golf season. He calls it talking season. It's golf season, man, because he had another golf tournament he played in. He told me, yeah, they pay a lot of money to play with celebrities like me. So I got to play. I go, yeah, what? I know who they're paying the money to. But, yeah, so it's cool. I mean, Steve, this time of year, we're not going to get him every Monday, but hopefully in football season we will. We'll see how that goes. But Chris Lowe's going to join us. And then we told you this before. We are going to, as soon as we're done with this, we're going to go ahead and tape a show that will air Friday morning. I think it'll be up, which will be an SEC preview. Robbie will be on the show. It'll be a little bit shorter. I've got to get going on. I'm not saying I got to get going on the golf tournament, but I've got to devote all my focus to the golf tournament. It's going to be the biggest one ever, and it is a carnival, and it's crazy. And so many people just keep – I love this town, man. You know, you can't build too many apartments to make me leave. That should be the new motto for me. No matter how many apartments you knock down great restaurants or bars and build apartments there, I'm not leaving because the people of this town are amazing, and they have just overwhelmed me this year. It's incredible. Almost everybody, and I think everybody, well, maybe one or two on this list of people we talk about every week, our sponsors, is a Bob Dooley Invitational sponsor as well. So I appreciate them, and I appreciate them for 3 reasons. Number one is for the kids, for the young people involved with this. Look, there are a million causes you can go out, you can try to help, and all of them are tremendous. I don't care what it is. Well, I mean, there's some. I mean, if you're like racism in America, I'm for that. You know, no. If you're doing that, no, I'm not going to say that's okay. But I mean, we know there are a lot of people asking for a lot of money in different ways. Stop Children's Cancer is one I chose to do because of Howard, and I knew him and had played a lot of golf with him, but I also, you know, the thought of a child dealing with that, if they can do anything to make that better, that's why, and that's where I put mine. I love dogs too. I would like to put some money in the ASPCA, but I'm putting all right there because these are the people that I really care about, the kids. So the kids, thank you. Certainly, my family thanks you. Everybody's done an unbelievable job this year in getting all the stuff that we need, and it's been awesome. And certainly, I think the community of Gainesville thanks you. You know, I mean, I think for people to come out there and do this, it's just great. It keeps things going in Gainesville and over there at Shands. So that's my spiel for today, and then we'll get to what is the Titan MRI starting lineup today. Titan MRI title sponsor, along with Leonardo's and Bobby Dial, of the Bob Dooley Invitational. So Look, next week I'll quit talking about it. Okay, calm down, guys. I mean, this is all I'm breathing for the last 3 months, pretty much. All right, number one, baseball. I think I have seen a balk-off before. I think I saw one where somebody balked and it brought in the winning run. I can't remember what game it was, but it feels like I saw it. But Florida loses on a balk-off where the guy balks with the bases loaded, or a runner on third. And, it just was it's just a lost weekend in terms of opportunity. Vanderbilt gets beat twice by Alabama, which was going through a major scandal, and fired their coach. And I'm sure Vandy kind of maybe relaxed a little bit. And guess what? Alabama beats them twice. Alabama's not a bad team. We saw them here in Gainesville. So they win, and they lose 2, but Florida loses 2 as well, so they don't gain any ground. Of course, Vandy's next. Just not a great weekend for baseball, but Cags did break the record. He's at 27 now. I don't think he can get to 40. I think in theory he could play like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Maybe 18 more. No, 17 more games, somewhere around that total. Everything got extended, so 17 more games, he'd have to hit 13. I guess it's possible. There's a chance. I'm saying there's a chance. All right, number 2 is softball, and as we talked about before, I think I'm the first person that brought this up, and then I noticed the national media kind of jumped up on it. Tim Walton, first losing season ever as a head coach in the conference. I'm not blaming Tim, believe me. He just couldn't get things going right with pitching this year, and the irony of it is on the day that he becomes a 10-13 coach, Elizabeth Hightower allows 1 run. That's it. You win those games usually, the way they hit the ball. But it's just, softball is a weird sport. And I love softball. I'm a big softball fan. I watch a lot of the games. But I feel bad for Tim. They now have to go. And again, the other game where Hightower screwed up was on, and again, I'm not blaming the student athlete. I'm just saying, look, when you compete at this level, you're going to be criticized for things you don't do well. Was on Saturday, where she had a wild pitch that brought in a run and walked. She came in. They had a 1-run lead. They were going to take the series. He was not going to finish under 500, and they brought her in just for that inning, and it didn't go well. And that's just the way it went. So anyway, they now play in the SEC tournament against Kentucky. So we'll talk about that as well. Tough weekend for softball. And this is what happens in college sports. You're into a team, you're into a sport, but you're into the Gators. You're rooting for the Laundry, and one weekend it's just the worst possible thing that could happen. We lost 2 or 3, and the next weekend you sweep somebody and you go, "We're the best ever." You got to take it all in and just let it ride. All right, so number 3, the Derby. I did watch the end of it. We talked about my buddy Joe Calorio from Titan MRI, another multi-sponsor of things I do, and how his family was involved in the Forte, and Forte got pulled out, obviously, on Saturday morning, although he told me he knew about it Thursday, but because it had a bruise in its heel. And that horse doesn't get pulled out any other year, but we know what's been going on. It's just been terrible, 7 deaths, I think it is right now, that happened in the last week of horses. Somebody needs to explain this to the public, but they still had a good time. Everybody had a good time. They're wearing their hats and everything. It's good. But anyway, Mage won it. I always want to see the time. I watch the time. I don't even watch the race. I watch the time. I want to make sure they don't get below 2 minutes, because that was Secretariat. My favorite horse of all time, Secretariat. That's a whole nother story. Maybe I'll get to that some other time. All right, finally, 4. Number 4, lacrosse gets no publicity, no talk. I know Lacrosse wins the AAC championship. They win 9-8. Do not give up a goal in the fourth quarter to James Madison. And that's where everybody kind of goes, okay, I'm not going to get too excited about beating James Madison or something. But, hey, don't forget the Florida basketball team that went to the first ever Final Four for Florida beat James Madison in the first round. Know that. But the bottom line is this is the way the conferences are set up, and they're doing a great job. Mandy O'Leary keeps winning. They've won 10 conference championships, but because they're not SEC, we don't tend to treat them the same way. That James Madison team had won 17 straight games until they ran into the mighty Gators, who shut them out in the fourth quarter and said, not in our house, even though it's not our house. It's in Philadelphia, but not in this house. How about that? So now Florida moves on and will play their number 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. They will play Friday against they're hosting too. Friday they're playing, I think, JU, and then they play Sunday. And if they win those two, which they should, they move on, and we'll see if they can. Maybe this is a magic year where they can win it all. Until they win it all, I don't think they get anybody's attention in this town, and that's sad. But I'm kind of fall into that thing too, where I was like, what do we want to talk about? How about football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse? Yeah, they're not even a real conference. They're in a real conference. They're in it's big conference, Big East, but I think they deserve more attention. Finally, number 5. Speaking of conferences, I got to be honest. I watched no basketball this weekend. And I'm kind of embarrassed because I like to talk about it. I like playoff basketball, but I got kind of consumed with everything, with the golf tournament and some other things going on, and just wasn't caught up in just sitting and watching basketball. Interesting outcomes. I'm certainly probably going to try to watch tonight, but I don't know. The NBA playoffs, I always think every time they come up, they're playing these 4 out of 7, I always think, man, if college basketball did that, we'd have a true champion. Well, yeah, you'd be playing forever. You can't do that. I wouldn't mind 2 out of 3 for the final. What do you think? Maybe not. That's why March Madness is so great. It's one and done, and that's it. You lose, you snooze. So that'll do it. We do have to get to our Campus USA play of the weekend, and we didn't really have anything we liked from baseball or softball, I will tell you that. And then there wasn't a whole lot in golf. I didn't watch golf either. I actually was out and about this weekend, went to a couple places and did a few things. But our Campus USA play of the weekend came from the great state of Kentucky. As you can tell, I'm stalling. They're going to.
We'll just edit it.
Okay, and here it is. There it goes. I do like, and I knew that when those horses came around the turn, I know this much about that the winner probably wouldn't win. That somebody was saving himself. He was right there and was going to save himself for the end. It ended up being Eige. Again, I'm sorry, that's our Campus USA play of the weekend, but there's not much going on in terms of with big plays for Florida this weekend in sports. But this weekend, be different. I think I will. Well, I'll talk to you about it later because I can't do that. I want to do that, but I can't. All right, that's it for our first segment. First segment is over. My mind is going in a million places. Please be patient with me and understand that this putting on this golf tournament is hard and takes a lot, and I'm not that smart. I'm just not. I don't have enough brain power anymore. I think a lot of that, you whittle away at that stuff over and over again, Yeah. No, have another shot. We'll whittle away more. Yeah. Pretty soon you're going to forget things. You know what we're going to do? We'll bring on the great Chris Lowe on the other side, and we will talk to him. He can explain the SEC to us, And what happened to Florida? Maybe he'll tell us that. You are listening or watching. Listening to or watching. Another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another Dooley Noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Ribco To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Tebow Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444.
Albert, Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you access to elite speakers like coaches, NCAA football insiders, Gator greats, and more, including yours truly. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-season meetings, home game tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Trial membership until April 11th only, featuring Billy Napier and Tommy Townsend. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org. That's membership@quarterbackclub.org, or call me, and I'll let you get to the right people.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
All right, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. It's a great pleasure to bring in our guest today on the Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line, one of my best friends and one of the best people to read when it comes to SEC football, Chris Lowe from ESPN. Chris, how are you on this lovely day?
Well, good, Pat. Anytime I get a chance to catch up with you, it's a good day. And my only regret is we're not out on the golf course right now.
Yeah, well, that will happen later this week. I promise you that. But it's been an interesting. We're getting ready for talking season, as you know, and I've already heard it start. Where everybody's like, "Well, let's do this." One of the big topics of the summer is going to be: is Alabama finished? Is that dynasty completely over, and they're just going to be in a minor bowl every year? Your take?
Well, the first thing I would say is, haven't we heard that before?
Yeah.
a couple
have.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my first take is, as long as the guy that's the head coach in Tuscaloosa is still there, I don't think it's ever over. Now, are they going to win a championship every year? I mean, this is to me unbelievable, Patty. He got there, Saban got there, what, 07 was his first year?
Right.
If they don't win a national championship this year, this would be the first time that they've ever gone 2 or more years in a row without winning a national title. That's incredible. I mean, that's to me the kind of 15-year run we'll never see again in our lifetime. I don't think. Even Georgia, with the way Kirby's got it going there, I mean, I think they've got a great chance to win 3 in a row this year with the way they've recruited and developed. But to do that over 15 years and not to have a stretch where you've gone more than 2 years without winning a national title, and remember how close they were winning in 21. You had to play them again. And in a rematch, I mean, I think if they play anybody else but Georgia that year, they win it. So, no, I don't think they're done. I think they what they were in 12 or 17 or some of those years where they were just loaded at every position. No, and clearly the quarterback situation's got to be cleared up. But they've won before with average or guys who weren't NFL star quarterbacks. They won with Jake Coker. They won with McElroy. Eige McCarron was there for the back-to-back championships in 11 and 12. Heck,
They won with Jay Barker.
Yeah, Blake Sims won the SEC title in 14.
They did.
And set a passing record and took them to the playoff.
Yeah, because they're all those quarterbacks are surrounded by great players, and that's what you have to do is put them in position to win. And I know a lot of Gator fans here obviously are not in a good mood because of what their team is and what Georgia has become. I don't know that there's an answer because, look, Georgia plays nobody this year, as you know. I think they're going to, at the very minimum, be in the playoff. Whether they win or not, depends on how they play in the playoff. I mean, they could have been knocked out last year in the first round. But I don't see an end to that part of that dynasty, which 2 in a row doesn't make you a dynasty, but you can get to be a dynastic with 3 in a row.
Well, yeah, it's only happened one other time with Minnesota back in, the 40s or something like that.
Did you cover some of those games?
No, but did our friend Tony Barnhart cover some of those games? Be sure to ask him. I asked that.
I think he covered some of them,
yeah. I think, Georgia, you're right, man. Their schedule is so just tailor-made for them to get back to the playoff. I think it would be a massive disappointment. And something bad would have to happen, a rash of injuries or just some inexplicable losses for Georgia not to be in the playoff, Pat, this year. I don't see it.
Yeah.
Them not making the playoff. Now, you're 100% right, man. We all forget. I mean, right now the talk is about Georgia's won 2 in a row. Kirby's got it going, which he does. But if Marvin Harrison Jr., is there for that whole game and some things go differently, Georgia's, a few centimeters from losing that game to Ohio State.
Guy makes a kick.
Yeah, doesn't even get to the title game. So that's, to me, the beauty of college football is just when you think you've got it figured out. I mean, you go back to the SEC championship game in 21, nobody thought Alabama was going to beat Georgia there in Atlanta. Nobody. I was there, and I thought, they're going to win this game by 2 touchdowns, and Bama beats them. So I think in the realm of the SEC, as you well know, having covered the league for 40-plus years, there are no guarantees. And this league with the coaching, and you look at the lineup of coaches now in the SEC and the way it recruits and the grind, it's going to become even more of a grind in 24 and 25 when you add OU and Texas and potentially go to 9 league games, which there's still some fighting about that. But I don't ever go into a season and say this is 1,000% lock. That said, to me, the most surprising thing of this coming season would be if Georgia were not in the playoff.
You mentioned the schedule, and we talked to Blake Topmeyer about this last week, but there is a battle that we thought would be solved by now. Everybody wants to say the only thing that makes sense is to go to 9. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, I think it makes sense on a lot of fronts, financial sense, dollars and cents. I think there's a way to parlay that, and I know there's a way to parlay that into more money because the networks, my company are going to be willing to have more marquee matchups.
Sure.
If you play 9 games, you get more games of significance. I think too, it's more represented, Pat. And we've covered this league going all the way back before the conference championship game, and I've never felt like a league is really a league unless you play each other on a regular basis. Georgia's never played ever at 8 a.m. Imagine that. 8 a.m. came in the league in 2012. Here we are going past 10 years, and the Dogs have never played at Kyle Field. That's just one example. So I would love to see an extra game. That means you're going to play more games against each other. You're still going to be able to keep your traditional rivals, i.e. Georgia can play Florida every year. Georgia can play Auburn every year. Tennessee can play Alabama every year. To me, that's important, but I think it's also equally important that you're not going long stretches and not playing each other. So I'd love to see Florida and Auburn. That used to be a great game, a great rivalry. I'd love to see
and
those
it's funny
teams
because
play more frequently.
Auburn is the closest school to Gainesville, and yet they never play. I mean, that it seems. But I mean, Chris, I've tried to ask this question. I've never really got an answer. How did we get to the point where the schedule was so screwed up? I know that some people say, well, the COVID year screwed it up, and it's still, you can't explain why, like you said, Georgia's never been to Texas A&M. Why Florida and Auburn hardly ever play anymore. Was it just lazy? They just didn't see the importance of trying to make it balanced?
I think there were a lot of different agendas. When I say agendas, I don't mean that in a sinister way, but there are a lot of, you're trying to satisfy a lot of people. Everybody wants to keep those rivalries I mentioned intact and not go years and not play them. When A&M and Missouri came to the league in 2012, they completely redid it and did it on the, the 6-1-1. I can't remember what the rotation is now. But
6-1-1.
yes,
Yeah. No, it's actually 6-2 now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there were a lot of different forces working against each other now, but it's hard, when you have that many teams, you got to be able to put it together a schedule to where you want to play each other as many times as possible. But if Georgia and Florida are playing every single year, and Florida and LSU are playing every single year, and Tennessee and Kentucky and Tennessee and Alabama, it's sometimes sort of your hands are tied as far as how many times, if you're not in the same division, i.e. Texas A&M and Georgia, how many times you can play those games in a window. But I'm with you, man. I think there's certainly a way as we go to a 16-team league in 24, whether it's 6-3, which would be 3 permanent opponents and 6 rotational, which I'm told, Pat, if they did that, a player that stays 4 years would play every school in the league, home and away, which is, right, to me, that's the best way to do it. If it stays at 18 or 8 games, I don't like that. I think there's still a way to play more often against each other, but you're only going to have the one permanent rival, which I guess in that case it's Georgia, Florida, which means right, Georgia's going to have to drop playing Auburn every year. And I don't think that goes over very well on the Plains or in Athens.
No, I know that there are schools, and we've talked about this for, I think, a while now, that want to keep it at 8 because they want to get bowl eligible. They want to schedule 4 patsies or 3 patsies and a rival, something like that. But still seems kind of weird if doesn't go to 9. I did want to talk to you about what I call summer loving. And that is schools that are going to get a lot of love this summer. And that LSU is going to be one of those teams. People are in love with LSU, and a lot of them are going to pick them to beat Alabama. And a lot of it's because Jaden Daniels was so good. I think he's got a chance to win the Heisman.
Yeah, he came in and was better, I think, than anybody thought he would be, Pat, and including me. I knew he had ability. I knew he was one of those guys that could beat you a couple different ways, but I did not expect him to progress the way he did last year. And really just become a terrific fit in what they do at LSU. Hey, coaching still matters, man. You know that. And Brian Kelly, for all his skeptics because they didn't win the big game at Notre Dame, or when they would get on the big stage, sometimes they would get crushed, can coach. And I think last year certainly underscores that, and the way he turned that program around and the way they got better. That's the thing about LSU was not a very good football team to start the season, but boy, they got better and better, and were playing really good football at season's end with some younger players. They were playing 2 freshman offensive tackles. Their best defensive player was a freshman, albeit a supremely talented freshman. And Daniels in his first year as a quarterback in that system. So, yeah, I agree. I think they're going to be a player. I think they will be a team this year. If you say somebody other than Georgia or Alabama in the SEC who's got a chance to be a playoff team, I think LSU, to me, is right there. I think probably LSU and Tennessee. Tennessee's schedule, too, is a little harder, but they do get Georgia at home this year. But they got to go to Florida and to Alabama, which is difficult. But no, I think what Brian Kelly did in year 1 in Baton Rouge is, again, just a testament to what kind of football coach he is.
You know, from afar, and I mean, you're not that far away, but you've got your finger on the pulse and everything. But I'm just saying, what is your best explanation for why Florida is where Florida is at this point with 2 losing seasons in a row? And is it bad hires, bad decisions, bad luck, bad karma? I mean, I've tried to explain it. It's hard for me to explain sometimes.
And I know you get peppered with that, Pat. And I've asked that question, and having been around and knowing that program pretty well. I mean, I think some of it is the standards that were set under the ball coach and Urban, just how much they won and how they won at such a high level. And that's always going to be the standard there. When you taste success at that level, then, well, you know what? There should never be a drop-off. Well, if you go back over 30 years in the SEC, there's drop-offs everywhere. Look at Alabama before Saban. Look at LSU before Saban. It happens, even to the blue bloods like Florida. Even with Mullen was there in McElwain, they got to the SEC championship game. Didn't Mac take them there twice in a row? Mullen took them there.
They went there 3 times between the two of them.
2 or 3 times. Remember, was it 20? Nobody played Alabama better than Florida did in the SEC championship game that season. So they weren't that far off. I don't know that recruiting. I know Dan catches a lot of flack for not wanting to recruit, not been a great recruiter. I don't know that they were dynamic as a recruiting operation during that time. And yet, you look at some of the players and some of the kids who've gone on, they've been pretty good. You know what I think the biggest things that when I think of those teams that even when Spurrier was there and certainly when Urban was there, and everybody knows that, Tebow and the funding on offenses, Pat, they just haven't been the same on defense, man. They haven't had some of those cats. They haven't had some of those cats going after quarterbacks on the back end. The Lito Shepherds of the world, Brandon Spikes. I don't see those guys on defense over the last few years. There's some, but they don't have the quality and the depth of those guys on defense. And you look at the Gators on defense the last 2 years, I don't care how good you are, how talented your quarterback is, if you can't stop people consistently, especially in this day of football, you're just not going to win at a high level. They got to get better on that side of the ball, and they got to get more talented on that side of the ball.
Absolutely. And that is, they've been historically bad for 3 years in a row. Every year it gets worse. And it is a weird dynamic. It's like somebody said, well, how does Florida get 6 players drafted and they were 6 and 7? I go, well, those are their only good 6 players. That's the problem is they need 22 of those, not 6 of them. And even one of those was very hugely erratic. But it's been an interesting dynamic. Chris Lowe from ESPN joining us. Let us get to Yes, No, Where, Maybe. We play this game every show where it's brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteaks, street dining done the right way. And they'll be on the first hole at the Bob Dooley Invitational serving up some great food. Number 1 for you on Yes, No, Where, Maybe, Chris Lowe. Next year at this time, all 14 coaches will be back.
No way.
Because it's the SEC, right?
Exactly. You took the words out of my mouth. It's the SEC, man. The same league that coaches get fired 2 years removed from winning national championships.
That's right. Yeah. So I look. We all know Jimbo's got a little heat under him, and I think it's got the buyout's gotten down where they can afford it now at 70. What is it? 73 million. Why can't somebody buy me out?
Well, we missed our calling, man. There's no profession quite like being a fired head football coach in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you could easily say, well, if Jimbo survives, I don't see anybody else. Well, I didn't see Dan Mullen coming. I didn't see Jim McElwain coming. I mean, all these coaches that have gotten fired here, but all over. I mean, Brian Harsin, who thought he would not last 2 years and barely lasted the second year?
Yeah. I talked to Harsin a few weeks ago, and I actually did a story on him. And he's a great example of a guy. I mean, he won everywhere he was. Okay, he won at Boise. Yep. He was a good assistant coach. I mean, he went to Texas under Mac Brown. Maybe it's a fit. Maybe it's a different part of the country. Maybe it's just the SEC. But the guy gets there. It's during the middle of COVID. They try to fire him after 1 year with some trumped-up investigation. He clearly had problems recruiting, and he's gone. Yeah. Our good buddy, the ball coach, used to always say, and he was so right. He talked about coaches, this coach or that coach, and I think probably if you're a coach, as he would say, this guy's got a good agent. Got a good agent. These guys are good agents. That's what matters now. And he's right. I mean, when you get these big buyouts where teams can't fire you, and of course now I don't know if there is such a thing, Pat, as a big enough buyout where a team can't fire you. Auburn spent its last two coaches, Malzahn and Harsin, they spent almost $40 million, $38 million in buying out two guys. If you go back to Chiswick, it's over $40 million.
That's a lot of money. Well, and maybe they shouldn't have such a great TV deal. Then they wouldn't fire coaches as quickly. All right, number 2 on yes, nowhere, maybe. The SEC will have a Heisman winner this year.
I'm going maybe. I think there's enough, because Heisman winners typically aren't the guys that are the front runners to start the season.
Right.
They sometimes come out of nowhere. I'll give you Johnny Manziel, a lot of those guys. So I'll go maybe on that one. And I think there's some, I know everyone's going to say who. I mean, you mentioned Daniels earlier. I think he's a guy that could have a big year. And maybe this year's, there's some dynamic defender that finally breaks through, and 26 years later after Woodson becomes a defensive candidate. But I go maybe, because Caleb Williams at USC, everyone's going to say he's the guy to beat. But man, as we've seen, it's hard. It's hard.
They don't like to give it twice in a row. They don't like to do that. Tebow got the most first place votes in 2008 and did win the Heisman. So that tells you how much people don't like to give it away twice. Finally, on yes, nowhere, maybe, Arkansas will be picked last by the media boys in the Western Division. With a great quarterback, too. I want to point that out.
I'm going to go maybe, because I think it's going to be it'll probably be a close battle between Arkansas and Mississippi State, simply because of the mountain that Mississippi State's climbing.
Right.
Tragically losing Mike, your head coach, at the end of a season, and you're sort of, the offense is going to be overhauled. It's not going to be the same offense they ran under Mike. New head coach, first-year head coach, and Zach. A lot of new there at Mississippi State. And listen, it's still emotionally. I was there, Pat, for 2 or 3 days doing some reporting right after Mike passed, and that's still I think a fragile situation. It's going to be hard for any coach to come in there in year one, and because you can imagine when something goes wrong, that's going to be tough to bounce back from him. But Zach Arnett's a tough guy. I know he really likes his staff. You got Will Rogers coming back at quarterback, but there's just a lot of new. And I still think when it's, you think back, I can't imagine playing for a head coach, and then you go into the next season, he's gone just like that. That's a difficult.
Gone too. Not just took another job. Yeah. I don't know if you know this or not, Chris, but we reached out to all the coaches in the country to honor Mike Leach, because Mike Leach always sent us a helmet every year, wherever he was, and for our golf tournament. And I think we're up to 32 helmets that we've gotten from Dabo and Saban and Kirby, and it's really cool. And we appreciate them. Mike was a good man.
He was. And there's so many stories about Mike, because Mike was not as you know, he was the antithesis of a self-promoter. But, you know, as I went down there, and I got to know Mike going back to when he was at Washington State. I actually spent a week with him in Pullman back in whenever he was there. And that was a treat just to be there with him that long. And but he did so many things for people, just sort of, you talk about random acts of kindness that he never wanted out there, whether it would go to an animal shelter or a pet shelter and spend time with dogs. And I think he adopted one that he went to there in Starkville, and just things like that, the little things. Ross Dellinger wrote a great story about Mike and how he had supported this local restaurant there in Starkville, just outside of Starkville forever, and became really, really good friends with the owner. But those type of things, I mean, I'm going to miss Mike for a lot of reasons, because his teams are always fun to watch and to cover. And he was so refreshingly candid and didn't care what anybody thought about him, you, me, or anybody else. But it's more because I got to know Mike personally, and I know what kind of man he was, and the way he went out of his way to be a good person, and did not do it because he wanted credit or wanted to, to mug for the cameras for it. Absolutely.
I love the guy, and I miss him. Chris, I'll see you soon, hopefully. One day we're going to see each other in a press box again, I promise you.
And there probably will be maybe one other person in that press box that are older than we are, Pat.
Maybe not.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky, yeah.
We need to go to Georgia. We need to go to Georgia because Claude Felton.
I love that place.
Will be older.
He'd be older.
Barnhart will be older, but that's about it. That's about it. I remember when we were the young guys.
I know. We were the kids.
Circa early 90s, we'd go to the press box, and you'd see all these icons of sports writing, and we're the young
Philip
guys.
Marshall.
Now you blink your eyes, and you're the old guy.
I know. Well, hey, we're still old, but we're still on the right side of the dirt, so that's good news. And it's great to see you and talk to you again, and I appreciate you coming on.
Always a pleasure, Pat, man. Anytime. It's great to talk to you, talk football. Do me one favor. Tell everybody, the HBC, that I'm starting to get reports that he's routinely raking in 3-foot putts now.
No, he would never do that. No. He's never raking anything in. He's making it on. He's grinding over that 3-footer. I promise you that.
And I promise you this, too. He knows what your score is better than you know it.
I played with him once, and he was playing with Kim Helton with him, when up in the Redskins, and he said, "What'd you get? What, Pat? Pat, I got a 4. What'd you get, Kim, for?" And he goes, "Better count him again, Kimmy." That's him, classic. All right, my man. We'll see you later.
All right. You bet,
Thanks.
Pat. Thank you, bud.
All right, the great Chris Lowe. Always great talking to him. Here on another Dooley Noted podcast. It's presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll have Hesser and Kipke, 3 things, and all of our other fun stuff on the third segment here on another Dooley Noted podcast. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another Dooley Noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Albert, Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you access to elite speakers like coaches, NCAA football insiders, Gator greats, and more, including yours truly. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-season meetings, home game tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Trial membership until April 11th only, featuring Billy Napier and Tommy Townsend. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org. That's membership@quarterbackclub.org, or call me, and I'll let you get to the right people.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. We will get to all of our fun stuff that we always do. Want to thank everybody for being sponsors here and also for helping out with the golf tournament. We really appreciate everybody out there, and that's the last time I'm going to say that. I don't know. I can say it more often. It's okay. All right, let's get to the Hesser and Kipke three things, and they are playing in the golf tournament this year. I cannot wait for Ken Hesser and Jen Kipke to see the carnival that's out there. You know what they're going to say? We want to be part of this all the time. Well, if I do another one, maybe you will be. All right, Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville law firm specializing in the area of workers' compensation and family law. Ken and Jennifer take great pride in their one-to-one focus on each and every client they represent. Ken is board certified in workers' compensation law by the Florida Bar, while Jennifer possesses extensive jury trial experience with a nearly 20-year background as a prosecutor. Don't believe me? Check out their more than 55 five-star reviews, or better yet, give them a call at 352-339-9920, Hesser and Kipke. Number one on three things with Hesser and Kipke, Bronny committing to USC all of a sudden puts them, everybody's going to go, well, they're in my top five now. I'm sure he's great. And you know what this is setting up is for LeBron to stay on at least for 2 more years now, because he wants to be able to go to games and everything, and then play with his son in the NBA, which would be pretty cool for a dad to be able to play with his son. I'm not a big LeBron fan. Don't like the Lakers. We've been through that before, but it's still significant that he went to USC in terms of their power in the Pac-12, and of course he'll be a national player as we all know. But again, there's a lot of pressure on that kid, man. I think he would have preferred not playing in college and going right to the NBA so he could just go ahead and have the pressure right away. But anyway, that's what's happened. Number 2, Vida Blue passes away at 73. Boy, he was a dominant figure in my youth because, I mean, he was just this incredible player. And, I mean, Fernando Mania was nothing like anything I've ever seen. Fernando, Mark Fidrich, and Vida Blue, to me, would be the 3 guys from that era that just were people just freaked out. They'd never seen anything like it. And Vida Blue was amazing. Plus, it was such a great name. Who's your favorite player? Vida Blue. Who's your favorite player? Biff Pocoroba. Now, come on, that doesn't work. Vida Blue was great. And also, Nick Gilbert, who was the son of the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, died at 26. poor kid had tumor, something that created tumors in his brain. And, of course, he would be there at the draft lottery and doing the pick for him. And that, he kind of became a little celebrity there. But I feel bad. That's terrible. 26 is sad. If I had to Blues 73, I miss him already. I can see him with those white shoes and everything. But just wanted to bring those up. And finally, number 3 on Hesser and Kipke. I did want to bring up, we haven't talked a lot about it, women's tennis. Getting a couple of wins and getting all the way to the Sweet 16 in women's tennis. Nobody's talking about women's tennis, right? But they're in the Sweet 16. They play at North Carolina, 5 o'clock on Friday. I don't know. I'll check on whether it's on TV or not. But so they got a couple of wins and tough win against Georgia Tech. And congrats to Roland Thornquist for getting that done. That is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Let's get to our Ben Eige Real Estate, Odell Real Estate, Realty. Say it right. Ben Eige, Odell Realty, games of the week. And first we start with the house of the week. It's a house just west of Asheville, North Carolina in Candler. The home is only $299,000. It was $29,000. I'd buy it right now. $299,000 and actually comes with a 2-bedroom cabin and a separate studio apartment for even more flexibility and opportunity to generate revenue. Set on a small creek and just outside of Asheville, this is an amazing opportunity in the mountains of North Carolina. Reach out to Ben Eige at www.beneige.com/gators to find out more about this home and any other house in North Carolina. Ben Eige and Odell Realty, we appreciate them for being a sponsor. All right, we mentioned lacrosse is Friday, so that's not a game of the week. It'll be a game of the weekend. But softball now will play Kentucky Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Primetime softball for Florida. That is going to be on the SEC network, so you can watch that. Baseball, no weekday games this week, which is, I think is okay. I mean, you've got to kind of peter it out at the end of the year. So no games this weekend. NBA, Monday, tonight, we have New York, Miami. Miami's up 2-1. That's 7:30 on TNT. Golden State at LA. LA up 2-1. I'm not happy about that. 10 o'clock on TNT. And then Tuesday, we have Philadelphia, Boston, 7:30 TNT. That series tied at 2. And Phoenix, Denver, that series tied 2-2. That's at 10 on TNT. So a lot of TNT games coming up. Men's track and field also starts Thursday. I think you can find it somewhere, I'm sure. But that'll be interesting to see how Florida does there, where a lot of great success in that. That is the Ben Eige Odell Realty Games of the Week. Let's get to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. A lot of you picked Florida to beat Texas A&M last week. Didn't work out for you. Sorry. So we'll get off the Gators, and we'll do the L.A. at Golden State game Wednesday. I want to give you that one. The Wednesday game. It gives you time, if you're listening to it, to go ahead and make that pick. L.A. at Golden State on Wednesday. Pick a winner. As we told you, we're taping the show for Friday's show today. We're going to do it after this. And then we'll be back Monday, or we'll be back at some point next week. And we'll let you know when we're going to make a poll. Probably be next Friday, somewhere around there, for our new winner. All right, let's get to our Adams Ribco to go. Gator of the week and our weekend, I'm sorry. I'm going with Sarah Resnick, who was the MOP, Most Outstanding Player, of the AAC tournament. Florida won that. Sarah Resnick, we salute you. We'll do it like, what did they used to do that in, I can't think of the name of the show. It was a show. It was like the version of Laughing. Hee-haw, that's right. Hee-haw. Hee-haw. They would have a little city and they go, 2-egg Florida, we salute you. Salute. All right, we salute you. Sarah Resnick, congratulations. You have won the Gator of the weekend. Brought to you by Adams Ribco to Go, who will be out there cooking up some food on Saturday. Oh, my. It's going to be great. All right, finally, let's get to Pat Dooley's story time. And I actually was thinking about this because this came up, and I told somebody the story this week, so I said, that'd be good for Pat Dooley Storytime. Brought to you by East Lake Pediatrics, another sponsor of the Bob Dooley Invitational. But I was I think it was 12 years ago, we found out about a horse that was from Alachua, had been raised in Alachua, and it was going to be in the Derby. It was one of the favorites. It was called Bellamy Road, and there was a road up there named Bellamy Road in Alachua, and I actually went to the road just to see what it looked like. I wrote a long story. We went out to their farm, me and a photographer. They were lovely people, and we got to know them. I wrote like a 60-inch story, and then I actually took Karen and Kelsey both out there to see the horses and everything, and they had a blast. It was just great. And then the Derby came, but before that, I get a call from my editor, executive editor, the Gainesville Sun, Jim Osteen. He said, hey, we think we're going to send you up to the Derby. I've never been to the Derby. I'm like, well, it's Tuesday, the Derby's Saturday. I'm not sure they're going to give me a credential at this late date. And B, let me check, but I'm going to guess you're going to spend about $2,000 because I'm not going to be able to get a room anywhere near it. And of course, once I checked into everything, there was no way. Still haven't been to the Derby. Joe Calorio was there. I know that. He sent me a picture. Anyway, so finally the Derby comes, and I've got a real rooting interest. I didn't have any real rooting interest this week because once Forte got out. But and I'm like, all right, I'm into this. And the horse pulled up lame. And I'm like, oh, man. So immediately I'm on the phone, and because the journalist in me had to get the answer, had to get the quote. Instead, I should have just let her be because she's distraught. And I call her and go, what happened? What happened? I gotta know. Let me get a quote from you. She talked to me, because she's a delightful woman. I wish I remembered her name. I can't. But anyway, that's my Derby story. That's my one Derby story. That was the only one. And that's it for me for stories for a while. Well, until Friday's show, which you'll see, we'll do an SEC preview. It'll be a little shorter than normal, but we'll do that because of the golf tournament and everything. Hey, come on out to Ironwood. Come out there around 2:30. Get some bids in. You're donating to a great cause, Stop Children's Cancer. And if you come out there, you can. There should still be beer left. I don't know if we can go through 40 cases. So, come out there and have some fun. If you want to, we're happy to welcome everybody because we just want as many people to bid as much money as possible to help the kids with cancer. Okay, that's our goal, and we'll be back with another show. Until then, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.